He believed that love is forever. She proved that forever is an illusion. Die of curiosity, but don't miss the finale. It is decided there whether revenge is worth the price that souls pay for it. I never noticed the scent of jasmine in Olivia's hair until that Tuesday evening. Or maybe she'd never worn that perfume for me. For weeks, her phone buzzed like an angry hornet whenever I entered the room, silenced by her quick fingers. The car seat was always adjusted 2 inches back from my setting. Small things like breadcrumbs leading to a truth I didn't want to taste. That night, as she stood by the fireplace in her silk robe, the one I'd bought her in Venice, her reflection in the gilded mirror seemed sharper a stranger's. "I'm going out with Kevin this Friday," she said, her voice smooth as the Chardonnay she was swirling. "Just dinner. You're okay with that, right?" My eyes drifted to our wedding photo on the mantel. 2015. Her smile was wider then, her hand clutching mine like a lifeline. Now, her nails dug into the stem of the glass. I wondered when Ethan, my rock, became Ethan, the predictable. The clock ticked louder. Olivia's gaze flicked to the mirror again, avoiding mine. Testing me. A year ago, I'd have argued. Begged. Now, I tasted copper, the metallic bite of pride. "Do what you want," I said, shrugging. "You're your own person." Her laugh was brittle. Always so reasonable. "But your hands are shaking, darling." She was right. My knuckles whitened around the armchair. I wanted to scream, to smash the mirror that showed her triumphant smirk. Instead, I walked to the hallway, past the antique waltz music box, our first dance frozen in its gears, and grabbed my keys. "I'll be at the gym," I lied. The garage smelled of her perfume and motor oil. In the truck's rear-view mirror, my face looked hollow. Weak, she'd called me last fight. Stable but stale. I scrolled to Chloe's contact, the barista from Starbucks who'd slipped me her number months ago. Her laugh warm as the caramel macchiatos she made. My thumb hovered. Olivia thought this was her game, her rebellion against 35 and minivans. But mirrors work both ways. If she wanted freedom, I'd show her its price. "Chloe," I said when she answered. "How do you feel about wine bars this Friday?" Silence. Then a chuckle. "Depends." "You finally ditching the wedding ring." I glanced at the band on my finger, its gold dull under garage lights. "Let's call it research." The next morning, I woke before dawn. Olivia's side of the bed was cold, her perfume lingering like a ghost. I dressed in silence, avoiding the mirror where she'd left a smear of crimson lipstick, a careless mark of ownership. At the gym, I pushed weights until my muscles screamed, imagining each rep as a brick in the wall between us. By noon, I stood in a boutique downtown, thumbing through shirts that felt foreign to my hands. Slim fit, charcoal gray, the kind Kevin wore in Olivia's office photos. The salesman nodded approvingly. "Big date?" he asked. I almost laughed. A war, I thought, handing over my credit card. In the changing room mirror, the man staring back wore a stranger's skin. Sharp collars, tailored lines, a predator's costume. I flexed my hands, still calloused from years of fixing Olivia's leaky faucets and crooked shelves. "This is who you want? Fine. Let's play." That night, I found Olivia's pregnancy test in the bathroom trash. 2 pink lines. My breath hitched. For a moment, I saw her, 28 years old, laughing in a sunflower field, our secret picnic anniversary. "Someday," she'd whispered, pressing my palm to her stomach. 3 kids, a house by the lake. Now, the test lay among crumpled tissues, discarded like our vows. I gripped the edge of the sink, the mirror fogging with my rage. Was it mine or Kevin's? The dates blurred. Last month, I'd been in Denver for a conference. She'd sent me a photo that night, bathtub bubbles, a coy smile. "Thinking of you," the text read. The bathroom door creaked. Olivia froze, her eyes darting from the test to my face. "It's not what you think," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. I said nothing. Let her wonder. Let her bleed doubt. By Thursday, the house felt like a museum of dead promises. I moved my things to the guest room, each shirt folded with military precision. Olivia leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Really, Ethan? The silent treatment." Her laugh was brittle, but her eyes tracked my every move. I paused, holding up a faded band tee from our college years. "Remember this? You spilled beer on it at Lollapalooza?" For a heartbeat, her mask slipped. A flicker of the girl who'd screamed lyrics into my ear, her hands tangled in mine. Then she sniffed, nodding at my new wardrobe. "Who's the costume for? Some midlife crisis fantasy?" I zipped the duffel bag shut. "You taught me costumes matter." That night, I texted Chloe, Marriott Lounge, 8 p.m., where something unforgettable. Friday morning arrived with a pale sun bleeding through the blinds. I stood in the guest room, ironing the charcoal gray shirt until its creases could cut glass. Olivia's laughter floated up the stairs, sharp, performative, meant to remind me she was untouchable. She'd chosen a red dress for her date, one that clung to her hips like a dare. I watched her reflection in the hallway mirror as she adjusted the neckline, her fingers lingering where the fabric dipped. At noon, I drove to the Marriott, not for Kevin's pathetic rendezvous, but to meet Chloe. The hotel lobby smelled of sterile ambition, polished marble over priced roses. She stood by the grand piano in a black dress that whispered more than it spoke. When she turned, her smile was a blade wrapped in silk. "You clean up nice, Mr. Miller," she said, using my last name like a secret handshake. I handed her a single white orchid. "A prop," I clarified, "for the story we're about to sell." Back home, Olivia's perfume hung thick in the air, masking the rot beneath. She'd left her wedding ring on the kitchen counter, a golden period, at the end of a sentence I hadn't finished writing. I picked it up, the metal warm from her skin, and dropped it into a glass of bourbon. Watched it sink like a shipwreck. In the garage, I scrubbed my truck until the scent of her jasmine vanished. The radio played our song, Stand By Me, and I laughed until my throat ached. When the melody faded, I smashed the bourbon glass against the wall. Shards glittered in the moonlight, each reflecting a fragment of the man I'd been. Upstairs, Olivia's suitcase lay open on the bed. A silk nightgown, condoms, a bottle of pills. She'd packed for a weekend, not a lifetime. I zipped it shut and carried it to the doorstep where the cab would come. At 7:55 p.m., I stood in the Marriott Lounge, adjusting my cufflinks. Chloe's laugh cut through the murmur of clinking glasses, bright and rehearsed. She leaned into my shoulder, her breath warm. "He's here," she whispered. Kevin entered like a parody of masculinity, tailored suit, hair gelled into submission. His eyes scanned the room, lingering on Chloe's legs. I turned to the mirrored wall behind the bar, watching his reflection approach. "Mr. Miller," he said, extending a hand slick with arrogance. "Olivia's mentioned you." I shook it, my grip tighter than necessary. "Funny, she's never mentioned you at all." Chloe's heel brushed my ankle under the table, a silent cue. As the pianist launched into Fly Me to the Moon, I pulled her to the dance floor. Our bodies moved in sync, a choreographed rebellion. In the mirrors lining the walls, I counted 3 Kevins, 3 Chloes, and a stranger wearing my face. The morning after the Marriott charade, I found Olivia's lipstick-stained coffee mug abandoned on the counter. Crimson smudges formed a Rorschach test only I could interpret: betrayal, guilt, or indifference. Her heels clicked upstairs, pacing like a caged panther. I traced the rim of the mug, remembering how she'd once kissed me with those lips after burning my birthday cake. Perfect, she'd lied, flour dusting her nose. At work, Chloe slid into my cubicle unannounced, her rosewood perfume clashing with the sterile office air. She placed a file on my desk, surveillance photos of Kevin entering a Motel 6 with a blonde who wasn't Olivia. "Your wife's taste in men needs work," she murmured, tapping the timestamp. "Last night, 9:47 p.m. The same minute I dipped Chloe on the dance floor. I shredded the photos, but their edges curled in the trash like accusing fingers. That afternoon, the clinic called. Olivia's name flashed on my screen as I sat in the parking lot, engine idling. "Test results are in," the nurse said. "Would she like to discuss options?" Options. The word slithered into my ear, venomous. I found the paperwork hidden in Olivia's jewelry box. Beneath the pearls I'd given her on our 5th anniversary. 8 weeks pregnant. The dates aligned with Denver, with my trip, with her lonely nights. The bathroom mirror fogged as I turned the shower, scalding. Olivia's razor sat on the ledge, still flecked with her leg hair. For a wild moment, I imagined slashing Kevin's tires as throat my reflection, anything to feel control. Instead, I texted Chloe, "Need alibi for Saturday." Saturday's sky bruised purple as I parked outside Kevin's apartment. Chloe's laugh echoed through my car speakers. We'd rehearsed her role all morning. "You sure this'll work?" she'd asked, applying lipstick in my visor mirror. I didn't answer. Truth was a luxury I'd sold for revenge. Across the street, Olivia emerged in a trench coat, too thin for the weather. She glanced around, a stray cat seeking shadows, before slipping into Kevin's building. My phone buzzed. Chloe's stage selfie at a gas station 20 miles away. Timestamped proof I was elsewhere. I stepped out, gravel crunching like bones underfoot. The security cameras read. I blinked above Kevin's door. "Let's see me." Let Olivia explain why her husband stood outside her lover's den while her girl's night lie unraveled. The motel's neon sign flickered like a dying star, casting shadows over Kevin's car parked in slot 13. Rain sheeted down, blurring the line between asphalt and night. I sat in my truck, gloves tightening around the crowbar. Olivia's perfume still clung to the passenger seat, a ghost haunting my periphery. Through the motel's grimy window, I watched their silhouettes. Kevin's hands moved like tarantulas, Olivia's laugh muffled by glass. My reflection in the rearview mirror startled me, jaw clenched, eyes hollow. Is this who I've become? The crowbar answered first, its cold weight familiar as regret. The first strike shattered Kevin's windshield. Glass rained like diamonds. The second dented the hood, metal screaming. By the 5th blow, my breath came in ragged bursts, each exhale a name: Olivia, Denver, liar. Inside Kevin's apartment, I found the letters. Hidden beneath a stack of gym magazines, they smelled of Olivia's jasmine. "Meet me at the Marriott," she'd written. "I'll wear the red dress you love." Dates overlapped with business trips, anniversaries, lies. A framed photo on the nightstand stopped me. Olivia at a beach, Kevin's arms slung possessively around her waist. August 15th, the day she'd claimed her mother was hospitalized. My fingers trembled, the glass cracking under my grip. Blood dripped onto the mattress, blooming like poppies. The bathroom mirror showed a stranger, hair wild, shirt splattered with rain and rage. I smashed it with a crowbar, shards clattering into the sink. One fragment nicked my cheek. Let her see the scar. Let her remember. Dawn crept in as I parked outside Chloe's apartment. She opened the door in a silk robe, eyes widening at my knuckles. Without a word, she led me to the kitchen, pressing a whiskey into my hand. The ice clinked like broken vows. "You look like hell," she said, dabbing my cut with iodine. I gripped her wrist. "The baby's mine." Her pause lasted 3 heartbeats. Does it matter now? Through her living room window, the city skyline sharpened. Somewhere out there, Olivia was waking in Kevin's stained sheets. Somewhere, a clock ticked toward reckoning. I pulled Chloe closer, her breath warm against my ear. Make sure she sees the photos. The photos arrived at dawn, glossy prints of Olivia and Kevin spilling from an unmarked envelope. I spread them across the kitchen table like tarot cards predicting ruin. Her laughter frozen in monochrome, his hand on her thigh under a cafe umbrella. August 15th, the day she'd worn my grandmother's pearls to visit her mother. I lit a match, watching flame tongues lick the edges of the cheapest lie. Smoke curled into the shape of our first apartment, where she'd sworn fidelity during a blackout. The fire alarm screamed. Olivia stumbled downstairs, robe gaping, eyes still smudged with last night's mascara. "What the hell are you?" Her voice died as she saw the surviving photo. Kevin's lips at her ear, her head thrown back in familiar ecstasy. The ashes between us smelled like burnt sugar and endings. She followed me to the garage, heels cracking like gunshots on concrete. "You think this changes anything?" she spat, clutching the remaining photo. "You stopped fighting for us months ago." The overhead light buzzed, throwing our warped reflections onto the truck's hood. I yanked open the glove compartment. Pregnancy results, motel receipts, a dried orchid from Chloe. Olivia's breath hitched. For a heartbeat, I saw her at 22, pressing wildflowers into textbooks. Certain love was simple. "You kept count," she whispered. I slammed the compartment shut. "You stopped pretending." Her slap echoed off the tools hung neatly on pegboards. The ones I'd used to build her bookshelves, her garden trellis, our bed. The sting felt cleaner than her lies. Midnight found me at the lake house we'd dreamed of buying. Moonlight carved shadows into the empty nursery I'd painted last spring, soft yellow, clouds stenciled on the ceiling. Olivia's single text glowed on my phone. "You in?" I smashed the mirrors first. Then the wedding china. The porcelain shards looked like ice melting into the hardwood. In the wreckage, I found our time capsule buried under the porch, ticket stubs from concerts, her positive pregnancy test from 2018, the miscarriage she never forgave, a lock of hair tied with twine. Dawn caught me knee-deep in the lake, clothes heavy with water and memory. When the police came, I let them cuff me without protest. Let Olivia explain the bruises on Kevin's face, the vandalized car, the life she'd gambled for a dance with danger. The courtroom smelled of lemon polish and stale regret. Olivia sat across the aisle, her lawyer's whispers condensing into frost on the air. She wore the pearls I'd given her, a final provocation. When the judge entered, her gaze flicked to mine, a silent plea masquerading as defiance. The prosecutor displayed photos of Kevin's vandalized car, my crowbar tagged as Exhibit B. I traced a scar on my cheek, now healed into a pale seam. Chloe's testimony crackled through the speakers. Ethan asked for an alibi. I didn't ask why. Her voice felt distant, a radio station fading at the edge of town. Olivia's nails dug into the wooden rail as the pregnancy results were admitted. The dates screamed louder than any witness. They found me guilty of misdemeanor vandalism. 6 months probation, community service, a restraining order that meant returning our wedding album via lawyer. Outside, rain sheeted over the courthouse steps. Olivia waited under a black umbrella, her silhouette sharpened by the storm. "Was she worth it?" she asked, nodding toward Chloe smoking by a news van. I stepped closer, rainwater sluicing down my collar. "Was he?" Her flinch was answer enough. She handed me a manila envelope, ultrasound grayscale smudges, a due date circled in red. "Our due date." "I'm keeping it," she said, voice cracking. "But I can't keep you." The umbrella tilted, hiding her face. For a heartbeat, I almost reached out. Then the wind tore the envelope from my hands, pages spiraling into the gutter. The movers came at dawn. I wandered empty rooms where our arguments still echoed in the nail holes and scuff marks. In the master closet, Olivia's abandoned dress swayed like a ghost on its hanger. I pressed it to my face, Jasmine and Betrayal. The music box from our first dance sat in the attic dust. I wounded the waltz tinny and warped. My shadow loomed on the bare wall, a grotesque parody of the man who'd once twirled her here. By sunset, I stood in the driveway, keys surrendered to the realtor. The truck's engine roared to life, radio scanning through static until it landed on Stand By Me. I let it play, volume cranked, as the house shrank in the rear view. The gym at midnight smelled of bleach and loneliness. I pounded the treadmill until my lungs burned, chasing a high that wouldn't come. On the mirrored wall, my reflection fractured under fluorescent lights, a mosaic of the man I'd been. Husband, avenger, fool. In the locker room, I found Olivia's earring wedged in my duffel bag, a diamond teardrop she'd lost months ago. For weeks, I'd told myself she'd left it deliberately, a breadcrumb back to us. Now, I dropped it into the sink drain, watching silver swirl into darkness. At 2 a.m., I drove to the Marriott. The piano lounge was empty, the staff wiping away fingerprints of forgotten patrons. The bartender nodded, sliding me a bourbon without asking. "She's not coming back," he said, polishing glasses. I wasn't sure what she meant. Chloe found me on the rooftop terrace, her silhouette backlit by city glow. She wore the black dress from our first date, now loose at the shoulders. "You look like hell," she said, lighting 2 cigarettes. We leaned against the railing, ash falling 10 stories to the street below. Her phone buzzed, a photo of Olivia pushing a stroller through Central Park alone. The baby's eyes were mine. "You could fight for custody," Chloe murmured. I flicked my cigarette into the void. "Some ghosts don't want resurrecting." She kissed me then, lips tasting of nicotine and closure. When she pulled away, her lipstick left a Rorschach blot on my collar, twin smudges that could have been wings or scars. The eviction notice came on a Tuesday. My new apartment smelled of fresh paint and possibilities. I hung no photos, bought no mirrors. The only decoration was Olivia's music box, its gears rusted silent. At midnight, I dragged the box to the rooftop. The city hummed below, a mechanical lullaby. With a hammer from the hardware store, I smashed the delicate waltz tune into scrap metal. Cogs scattered like confetti, glinting in moonlight. When the super came shouting, I stood ankle-deep in wreckage, grinning. "Soundproofing," I said, tossing him the hammer. He left muttering about crazy tenants. Alone, I danced to the sirens below, no rhythm, no partner, no reflection. For the first time in years, my hands didn't shake. 7 years later, I saw her in a Brooklyn cafe. Olivia sat by the window, stirring a cappuccino with mechanical precision. The sunlight caught her hair, now streaked with silver, and the toddler squirming in her lap. My reflection hovered in the cafe's glass behind her, a ghost from a life I'd burned. I ordered my coffee black the way Chloe had taught me. The barista smiled, her septum piercing glinting. "Name?" she asked, sharp poised. "Ethan," I said, watching Olivia's shoulders tense. She recognized the timbre, if not the man. Her son babbled, smearing chocolate on a napkin. My eyes traced his features. Her nose, Kevin's stubborn chin, nothing of me. When I sat 2 tables away, she turned. Her gasp was a dry leaf crushed underfoot. "You look different," she said. I sipped the bitter brew. "You don't." Her hands fluttered, adjusting the boy's bib, tucking hair behind ears, seeking purpose. The diamond ring on her finger was smaller than the one I'd given her. "His name's Lucas," she said, defensive. "Good name." My voice stayed flat. The cafe mirror behind her showed my current self, beard trimmed, tattoo peeking from a rolled sleeve, wedding band absent. She leaned forward, perfume faintly jasmine. "I heard you're with someone. A teacher." "James. He teaches poetry." Her laugh was brittle. Since when do you like poetry? Since I learned words can't lie if you arrange them right. The toddler hurled his cookie. Olivia scrambled to catch it, the ultrasound photo slipping from her wallet. Our due date circled in red. Lucas reached for it, tearing the paper. She let him. Outside, autumn leaves skittered like discarded drafts. Olivia hovered by my Tesla, fingering the scratch on its door, remnants of Kevin's keyed rage years prior. I heard he's in Jersey now, she said. Married a nurse. I opened the passenger seat, revealing James' dog-eared Neruda collection. Your therapist would call this closure. She touched my arm, her nails blunt and unpolished. Did you ever love you? I studied the woman who'd been my compass and ruin. Yes, but I love myself more now. As I drove off, the rear view showed her kneeling to Lucas, lips moving in urgent whispers. The boy stared past her, captivated by a street musician's saxophone. At home, James spun me into a waltz, our socks sliding on hardwood. No music box, no mirrors, just our breath sinking to the rhythm we'd forged from ash. One story may be ending, but the excitement never stops. Don't wait. Jump right into the next one and keep the thrill alive.